The January transfer window has now opened and a number of Premier League clubs will be looking to dip into the market to hopefully improve their fortunes this season. I'm joined by IBTimes sports reporters Nick Howson and Tony Mogan. Guys, we'll start off at the top of the table. It's unlikely your Chelsea's, Manchester City's, United are going to make any major moves, but what about the other clubs that are fighting for that Champions League spot, Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs?
I think there's no more obvious a hole in a team in the Premier League than there is in Arsenal's defence. They've only had 6 senior defenders to choose from this season. So therefore a defender, and I think Arsene Wenger has basically intimated that's going to be the case, is an absolute necessity. If they have any ambition of finishing anywhere near the top 4, they need at least 1 centre-back, if not 2. Whether they'll go in for Winston, Reid or not, given that West Ham United are basically consigned to him leaving at least at the end of the season when his contract runs out, remains to be seen. They certainly need someone. Liverpool, I would think, will go after a forward, Reid from Lille. There's lots of discussion that they'll try and trigger some sort of deal there in January. He's not done too well, having gone back to Lille on loan. There's only a handful of goals he's scored there, but they need certainly more options. You know, Fabio Borini has never fitted in at Liverpool. Ricky Lambert's not really worked for him either, particularly as a main striker. Mario Balotelli needs a goal, you think, to get it off, so they certainly need a forward there as well. Other areas, I mean, yes, Liverpool do need another goalkeeper. Are they going to address that in January? Very unlikely. Brendan Rodgers will think that in Jones and Simon Mignolet that they've got enough to cover there for the rest of the season, given that they're really only in 2 competitions. And the same goes for Arsenal. There are other areas they need. They need a holding midfield player. Morgan Schneiderlin would be ideal. Are they going to go after him in January? With such limited time available, you'd think that they'll go after the absolute priorities in the window.
At the start of the season, you would have assumed Arsenal and Liverpool were in a bit better shape given the summer's spending that they put in. Tottenham's was a bit more reserved given the mistakes they'd made the previous summer, but at this stage of the season now, as Tottenham do look the stronger squads, and you base off that a fairly quiet January in store for Mauricio Pochettino's side. The club have already confirmed that DeAndre Yedlin will join up after finishing the season with Seattle Sounders. We saw glimpses of him at the World Cup, and the problems Pochettino has had at right back this season have been there to see. Kyle Walker's absence up until last month was detrimental for them. Carl Norton, Vlad Chiriches, Eric Dyer all filling at right back to no success whatsoever. So his inclusion will provide a bit more balance in defence, and at the right time when Spurs seem to have found that in their team, his arrival will provide a bit more to that and strengthen that in that respect. I
think it's unlikely they're going to bring a forward in, and say unless players go out. Lots of players on the peripheral of Pochettino's team haven't really featured this year. The likes of, as you say, Vlad Chiriches could well leave. I don't think it's going to be more about players leaving there. I would think the outgoings after Yedlin coming in will be more pertinent this summer.
Moving down to mid-table, you've got the likes of West Ham and Swansea have been overperforming this season, and they'll hope to continue that push for the European places, but you also have clubs like Everton who've had a real disaster of a season so far. Are they going to be looking to make any signings?
Obviously, it's always been very difficult for Everton when they outlay, a significant amount of the money they've got on one player. There's very little for everyone else, and that's going to go for January as well. Having said that, I think Roberto Martinez has stated that he needs a goalkeeper. Tim Howard's out for a couple of weeks now with that calf injury, and it looked quite a nasty one. Robles has already proven himself to be uncertain. Someone like Jack Butland at Stoke City, I know he hasn't a very limited impact at all. I mean, someone like that would be perfect for Everton. As for some of the other clubs, I think finances will certainly restrict. I mean, Southampton, I think there'll be 1 or 2 deals, but they're mainly loan ones. We've seen Eliar come in already. And West Ham United, it's going to be a case of 1 in, 1 out with them, I would think, even though some of the players going away for the African Cup of Nations as well. They've not been a club that's really been blessed with great amount of finance. And given that they're nowhere near from the bottom 3,
yeah, West Ham were very regimented in the summer in terms of the players they brought in. Either David Gold or Sam Allardyce would take a moment to say, right, we need 2 strikers, and then after this we'll reassess. And they did that in a very sort of straightforward manner. And as Nick said, it will be a similar pattern this time around. I think Allardyce has effectively confirmed now that Winston Reid has no future at the club, which would suggest that there will be another body coming in to replace him. The club have shown that they are very concise in going after what they want and when they need it, and I'm sure we can see that being repeated this month if it's what Allardyce wants.
That also goes for the likes of Swansea. I mean, Wilfried Bony's future, although he'll be again away with the Ivory Coast, is very much going to depend on whether he stays. If he goes, then obviously the money's freed up and they can do something with it. I think the fear would be allowing him to go, and then Bafétimbi Gomis, who has already suggested that he's somewhat unsettled. I think his move to Swansea was always about going on to bigger things anyway. He's unhappy that Bony's been given this primary role. To lose both of them would be disastrous for Swansea, but I would think that's really going to trigger their business in the window and nothing else. I don't think they're really going to go after too many players, I don't think.
Now, January is normally associated with panic buys, and certainly for a few clubs in the relegation battle at the moment, they'll be looking to make some desperate new signings. We have new managers, Tony Pulis at West Brom, Pardew at Crystal Palace, and even old hands like Harry Redknapp, who's always known to dip into the market. What are we going to see near the bottom of the table?
I think very much like I mentioned with Swansea, I think West Brom is going to be all about the future of Sergio Berahino. Well, I think West Brom have got to make a decision quite soon about that. A decision on Berahino has to be made in the next week, maybe 2 weeks. And then Pulis can set to work and do what he kind of does best in some ways. He puts his own slant on the team. Pardew at Crystal Palace, again, another club that will really have very little to work on. But Crystal Palace really need a goal scorer.
Redknapp there, he's Palace's top scorer with 5 goals in the league this season, and that his absence, coupled with the fact that he's a midfielder, sort of sends a message reverberating around the club. Harry Redknapp there, he's pretty adamant at this stage anyway that only arrivals at the club will be on loan deals. I don't think that's going to stop him bringing a fair few in, depending on how he sees the deals getting across. Already he's mentioned Ravel Morrison, who's been an outcast at Upton Park this season, so Morrison could be given yet another reprieve. Worked last time under Redknapp.
Getting goals into a team is going to be the main trend. Another club that have really struggled are sort of Sunderland. No player scored more than 4 goals in the league this season for them. Gus Poyet, I think, is at somewhat loggerheads with the Sunderland hierarchy in terms of trying to get some funds released. Whether we're going to see Fabio Borini go back there, I think he's obviously going to be the priority signing for them. Arguably 2 of the most enterprising front 2 in the division, in Ashley Barnes and Danny Ings, have been as exciting as anyone. Leicester have got Leonardo Ajoa, who's sort of, his form has been sporadic, but it's been good still. So they need to beef out their goal tallies, particularly with Leicester. I think they need to add to that midfield. I think that the defence has been very, very much unchanged. Back 5 has been very much unchanged. Ajoa has provided some good moments. They just need to add to that midfield a little bit more. So it's going to be, I think it's, in bar Leicester, it's going to be all about adding the goal threat, really.
Well, for all our coverage of the January transfer window, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk/sport.